Yo, what's up everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about something a little bit different, and that is the PS Vita. Yes, the PS Vita. This is one of the most unique systems of all time, and for those who don't know, the PS Vita is going out of print in Japan. So I thought it'd be a good time to kind of take a look back at the PS Vita, some of its strengths, weaknesses, some of the games that it has, and overall, how is the system itself? Now, this PS Vita in particular is pretty cool because it's a aqua blue PS Vita. This PS Vita is a Japan-only import. I actually just picked it up from Amazon recently, and if you want to get a PS Vita, let's just talk about this first here, guys. Since it is going out of print or out of manufacturing in Japan, it's pretty much already done here in the US. You can't find new PS Vitas in stores. But if you wanted to get one of these, they're actually going up quite a bit on Amazon, anywhere from $270 or higher for some of the more unique colors like the aqua blue here or like the metallic red. There's the ice white, but you can find them on eBay and all that for different prices. So it's up to you where you want to go. But yes, they are kind of going up in price. The rarity is kind of going up just a little bit. So if you wanted to snag one, definitely now is the time to get one before they completely go out of manufacturing in Japan, which is happening like any time now. Like the plant could literally just like blow up or just like shut down at this point because the PS Vita has had its run. Obviously, the PS Vita was not a very big or successful system really much anywhere. I know people talked about how it did in Japan, but when you look at it, the PS4 actually beat the PS Vita in sales in Japan, and the PS4 isn't looked at as like a huge success in Japan by itself, but the PS4 is looked at a huge success in the rest of the world, whereas the PS Vita is not looked at a huge success really anywhere. Now, that's okay though, because the PS Vita did give us a lot of cool things that still to this day, when you're talking about a portable console that's trying to emulate a home console in terms of the graphical style, the types of games, I think the PS Vita got the job done in some regards. There were just some other things with the system. So let's talk about the positives first. So buying a PS Vita in 2019, right? That's pretty much what this is going to be for a lot of people out there. Buying a PS Vita, and for myself too, buying a PS Vita in 2019. What are the advantages of this system? What make it really cool? Well, I'll say this right now. If you have a Nintendo Switch and you're comparing it from a system level, functionality wise with what the system can do in terms of playing games, it's actually the Switch by a landslide. However, when you're talking about functions with online and certain features, the PS Vita, even all the way back in 2011, has some great things about it. It has party chat built in, it has Bluetooth where you can use your headsets built right in, it has trophies, it has all sorts of chat features, messaging. It's actually a really nifty and slick device. Has a nice touch screen. The screen itself is really good. The games look good on there. It has some useless back touch panels or whatever, like touch to where you can like swipe and do some stuff. It's really gimmicky, but it does have that in there. And in terms of the system itself, it's actually very light. That's the first thing that I noticed about the PS Vita itself, is that it's a very light system and it's easy to hold. It's easy to hold by itself. However, it runs into some functionality problems with the buttons because a lot of the games are kind of like designed to have multiple shoulder buttons, but there's only 2 shoulder buttons. So sometimes you have to do this weird stuff with using the back rear touchpad or using combinations of buttons because it simply just doesn't have all the buttons of a regular DualShock controller. So it does run into some issues there with some games where the developers don't do a good job with programming when it comes to the button layout and everything. But for the most part, you shouldn't have any problems with games that were built for the PlayStation Vita. Now, you might run into some issues when it comes to remote play, but we'll talk about that, I guess, right now at this point, right? Remote play is a good thing to kind of get into because it's one of the cool features of the PS Vita itself. You can actually link it up to your PlayStation 4 and you can pretty much play any game on your PlayStation 4 on your PlayStation Vita through your router. But you have to remember, guys, you have to have very particular, I would say, a good router, a good gaming one to really that can get like the bandwidth out there. Otherwise, it's going to degrade the quality of the game. It's just not going to look as good or perform as good. But I've ran into issues even with my Netgear, my Nighthawk router. I ran into issues with remote play on the PS Vita when I go too far away from the system. So almost like the Wii U effect, right? It can degrade the quality. And then on top of that, like if you press like the sleep button, it can desync sometimes with the PS4. So remote play is actually a really cool type of thing, but it doesn't work as well for everybody out there. So just keep that in mind when you're talking about remote play and all of that. The button layout, the figuration is just kind of weird with some of the stuff, but it does work. Heck, I was playing like Apex Legends the other day on my PS Vita, but it doesn't really work well when it comes down to it. So yeah, but that is one of the features that's in the system, and it's actually a pretty cool feature if you have a PlayStation 4, a PlayStation 4 Pro, where you can link it up remote play with the PS Vita. So when it comes to features, when it comes to functionality, when it comes to like what you can do on the system itself, excluding games and all that, the PS Vita is like an A+. It has so many cool features built into there, and if I was more into like the online and all that back when the PS Vita was kicking, because the system's pretty much dead at this point, I think I would have had a lot more fun with this device because of what you can do with it. Now, when it comes to other things with the system itself, the buttons and how everything feels, that's actually pretty good. If you have big hands though, you might have a little bit of discomfort with the analog sticks, and the analog sticks don't click because I think it might be a little hard based on how small they are and everything. But the button layout is not bad. The buttons aren't too small or anything like that. It actually feels pretty good in the hands, and you shouldn't have any problem playing a lot of the games that were built intelligently for the PlayStation Vita. But speaking of those games, let's talk about some games a little bit more, because the PS Vita was always known as a system that doesn't have enough games, or there are no games for the system. And I guess that's kind of right and wrong. I think the biggest problem with the PS Vita was that Sony didn't support it enough with games. I mean, this system never got its own God of War title, which is just unfortunate, right? Which is just really unfortunate that it never did. Now, you can play like the PS3 ones and all that. You can do remote play, the PS1 classics. Well, there's no God of War on the PS1, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, you can kind of do like the stuff to where you can download the PS3 games or the PSP games and all that. So you can play God of War on the system, which is another really cool thing about the PS Vita. They have like the classic store and all that. PSN is really good for playing some of the older ones, but there was no game designed particularly for the system. I think that's probably the biggest issue, because I actually really like God of War, the older ones in particular. God of War 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, and the fact that there wasn't a God of War game for this system, I think that's the reason why I never outright bought it in its heyday. I was waiting for that real good God of War game, and it just never came. However, there's still a lot of other games that are really cool for the system. For example, Soul Sacrifice Delta. I've been playing a lot of that game. That's a really cool game where you sacrifice body parts and you can do all sorts of magic and stuff. It's a really unique concept, and it was kind of designed, or the concept was created by Kenji Inafune, who is the Mega Man creator. So that's a pretty cool game. Also, another game, Persona 4 Golden. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have already heard about the Persona franchise out there. And Persona 4 Golden was one of the games that got a lot of people to buy a PS Vita. It was one of the biggest system sellers out there for the system itself, just because it was a great game that came out for the PS2 that people played, but people didn't really know too much about overall. But then when it came out on the PS Vita, it like exploded in popularity, and I think that was the catalyst really for the Persona franchise to gain more popularity and kind of set up Persona 5 years and years down the road. And then there's also another game that I really like, which was made by Sony first party, and that was Freedom Wars, which is an RPG. You can play multiplayer as well. It's almost like a future kind of like Monster Hunter, but then it kind of mixes in some of the other elements. It has those aspects to it to where you fight huge bosses and everything. Same as Soul Sacrifice, God Eater, Tokiden, kind of all those games kind of have the similar mantra to it, teaming up with your friends, going out there and battling. So between those three games, that's some great RPG content that's going to give you hours and hours and hours of gameplay. And there's a lot more games out there, some hidden gems as well, but some of the bigger known games are stuff like Killzone Mercenary. You also have Uncharted Golden Abyss. There's games like Miramasa the Demon Blade. I mean, so there are a number of games that you can play, pick up on the system, and have a lot of fun with. There's stuff like Gravity Rush. Those games came to the PlayStation 4, but you can play Gravity Rush on your PS Vita. You can also play games like Tearaway. Little Big Planet is on there. There's Minecraft. There's some really cool indie games that you can play too. Rogue Legacy is on there. So there are a number of games, even in 2019, that you can go out there, pick up a PS Vita, and have fun playing and just be able to enjoy some of the classics on there. But I highly suggest those games that I talked about when it comes to Persona 4 Golden, when it comes to Soul Sacrifice Delta and Freedom Wars. Those are kind of the games that I was playing pretty much all weekend and having a lot of fun with on my PlayStation Vita. I also want to mention when it comes to the PS Vita and playing the games, the screen is actually a lot bigger than what you think when it comes to the specifications, and I'll have them up for you guys. But the screen is actually a lot bigger than what I thought it would be, or what I originally thought it was when I bought my PS Vita the first time around, so I can play Persona 5 remote play. But yeah, the screen's actually really nice. The screen for some of them are the OLED. I think I have the screen that was afterwards, but either way, it's a really nice screen. It looks good, and I think that with the features in the system, such as the remote play, where you can have the PS1 and the PS3 games that you can have from your PlayStation 4, also with a lot of the RPGs that are on the system, a lot of the hidden gem RPGs, I think the PS Vita is a worthwhile investment, even in 2019, to pick up a PS Vita, especially if you're a collector. Now, if you're someone who likes to collect classic systems, because I'm already going to put this as a classic system, it's already kind of dead, but if you like to collect these type of classic systems, or you like to have these systems that are going out of print, definitely now is the time to buy a PS Vita. I think that you're not going to be upset with it, because the thing about it is that I think the games, when it comes to overall the PS Vita and the legacy, I think it just took too long to accumulate the library that it has. And I think it's almost the same as the Wii U in some respects, right? It was much maligned when it was out and everything, but I think years down the line, maybe some people will look at it falling with all the stuff that you can play. And if you look at all the games that are coming over from the Wii U to the Nintendo Switch, you're like, oh yeah, there's a number of cool games that were on the Wii U. And if you look at a lot of the games that have came over from the PS Vita to the PlayStation 4, like a Gravity Rush, for example, you're like, oh yeah, that's a pretty cool game, you know? Tearaway, that's another game that came over as well. So I think that people, when you're looking at the full library of the PS Vita overall, it just took a long time for those games to come out. It was over a long period of time. Whereas back when these games were coming out, it just seemed like it took forever to finally accumulate the library that it does have. But now in 2019, and whenever you're watching this video, I think this video is relevant in 2020 or 2021 or whenever you're watching the video, I mean, you can look back at the library and say, yo, this is actually worth picking up, because there's all these games that you can play that are going to give you hours and hours of great content, and you can remote play it as well with a bunch of PlayStation 4 games too. So hopefully they add some more functionality. That'd be cool if you can do remote play like with the PS5 or something like that. So I'm hoping they add that in. And if they already have it in for the future people out there, then shout outs to remote play on PS5. But what do you guys think overall when it comes to the PS Vita? What was your enjoyment with the system? Are you planning on picking one up? Do you think that the PS Vita was this amazing system that had so many great games and it was underappreciated? What's your thoughts on this system? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Really helps us spread the content of PlayerEssence across the internet and just YouTube. Also, make sure you check out our Patreon, Twitch, and YouTube live gaming pages. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for this RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you ninja for the next video. Peace.